At San Diego Comic-Con, we got our first look at Mondo's upcoming Lion-O from their 1/6 scale ThunderCats lineup. And today, I've got a first look at that very same Lion-O. Let's get into it. Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan. Thank you for joining me for another video here on my channel. Real quick, if you enjoy what you see here today, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you never miss out. I've got new toy videos just like this one coming at you every single Saturday. As mentioned, today we're going to take a very special first look at the upcoming 1/6 scale Lion-O, currently available for pre-order from the folks over at Mondo. Mondo was kind enough to send me a pre-production sample to borrow specifically so that we can get a hands-on look at it here today. Now, I think it's worth mentioning the usual disclaimers. Whenever we're looking at a pre-production piece, it's worth noting that there could be some tweaks or some upgrades that will appear on the final figure that will show up on your doorstep. Also, because this is a pre-production sample, I do not have the box to show you. I just got the figure itself, and I'm even missing one of the accessories, which I will get into as we're talking about that. With that being said, the point of today's video is to just get a hands-on look so that you know what to expect if you're planning to order the 1/6 scale ThunderCats Lion-O. So with all that said, let's jump right into it. So here we are with our upcoming 1/6 scale Lion-O from Mondo. So standing at the 1/6 scale essentially means that your action figure is going to be about 12 inches tall. In fact, looking at him head on from my perspective, the hair even pushes just slightly higher than that, but basically he is here in your 12-inch scale, much like the other 1/6 scale figures that Mondo has done. Now, looking at this thing, I've got to say he's incredibly photogenic. Just right away, as soon as I threw him on the table, I found the overall sculpt, the paint deco, everything on this guy is absolutely gorgeous. Now, as you can see, this is sort of like a Mondo-ified version of Lion-O. Now, you look at it and it still looks like Lion-O, but what I mean by Mondo-ified is it's sort of following in the same format that they've done with their Masters of the Universe figures. He's not specifically based on the animation or the vintage LJN toy. He's kind of got Mondo's own embellishments in here, specifically with like the details on the fur. Like, look at how furry his arms and legs and his abs look. Like, he's got that very cool realistic fur going on there, with the orange kind of fading into that cream color on his hands. And then his armor is also a bit more detailed. It's got this beautiful like metallic finish to the blue. You can see the way the lights are shining on it. For example, he sort of has like this armored plating sort of hanging down from his belt instead of just wearing his tights like he does in the animation there. And he's got this really beautiful detailed belt. You can see it almost looks like it's a leather material in there that's blue with this white trim, gold kind of dots on there that would probably be like the little bolts like holding it all together. I love how the ThunderCats emblem is jeweled, meaning it's like a translucent red and it kind of shines through. It's beautiful. You can see the same thing over here on the wrist bracer where the ThunderCats logo over here is made exactly the same way. And I don't know if the light's hitting it well enough for this video, but it is also a piece of translucent red plastic with the black cat painted on there. It is very, very nice. Now, just out of curiosity, I was trying to see if like this belt and skirt piece could be removed. I can see, like, peeking under here, he does have the typical blue trunks underneath that you would expect Lion-O to have. And for anybody that was looking for that more kind of classic look, I was curious if all of this could be removed here. It does look like this is all part of the same sculpt, so the belt is attached to this skirt piece here, and I don't see any good way to really remove this. Like, this isn't meant to come apart right here. And it even almost looks like it's glued or attached to the back there. So I don't believe that this piece is removable, but perhaps if it is and I'm just missing it, Mondo will let us know. But otherwise, I do love the detail, and that was one of those things, like, I know that people like the classic looks of the characters, so that was more of a curiosity thing. I was wondering if that actually could be removed. It doesn't look like it does. I think the face sculpt here is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I just think they did such an incredible job of capturing this very stern look on his face. It looks very realistic, has some real life behind it there. And of course, we've got that signature look to his hair, as if it's almost like blowing in the wind. It's got that swoop to it there. All of the paint deco and everything on this is wonderful. I think it is beautifully assembled. So if you're curious about articulation on this, if you're not familiar with any of Mondo's 1/6 offerings, we'll run through that real quick. I will say that the figure feels very sturdy. He's got very tight joints, especially in the knees and the legs, which is very good for helping to keep him standing, because figures like this are definitely ones you wouldn't want to have shelf topples. So hopefully all of those joints are going to be tight like that on the actual production piece as well. So the head is on a ball joint there, which does allow you to roll it all around, look left, look right, slightly up, looks down pretty far, which is really, really nice there. And of course, this has got an interchangeable portrait where we can remove the head and swap it with other heads, which I will show you more of in just a bit here. Those joints at the shoulders are very tight. You can see it's got that ratchet joint in there, but the arms can go outwards. You can see it clipping there, forwards and backwards. You can swivel at the bicep. You do have tight joints at the elbows here as well. Boom, got those ratchets so they click, click, click. You can also swivel there at the elbow. You can swivel at the wrist. You got these ball joints in there, so there's also nice hinges with some interchangeable hands as well. That torso is jointed in the middle there with a ball joint, so it rolls all the way around. You can swivel it left and right. Also jointed down here at the waist, so good range of motion here in the torso. The legs can go outwards. I will say it's a bit tight and definitely seems to be hindered a bit by the skirt piece there, but you can also bring those forwards and backwards. You can swivel here at the knee, double joints at the knee, so very tight there. You can see it's got those same kind of ratchets going on, which is really good, so it can hold the weight of the figure there. It doesn't really swivel like at the boot cut, but rather here right below the knee. You can see on that double joint of the knee. And then the feet there at the ankles are also very tight, which is good, but those have the hinges that allow them to go up and down as well as rock side to side, and the rocking side to side is very nice so that you can get some very cool stances out of this guy. And I haven't had any issues really with standing him. Like, once you find a good spot, once you get a good balance, you get those knees locked in place, you can get some really cool poses out of this guy, especially when you match it up with all of the accessories that he comes with. So here's an assortment of the accessories that are going to be included with Lion-O here, so that you can mix and match these for the desired way of displaying the figure. One thing, of course, is very cool with this is we have two different types of claw gloves here, which are very neat. So this one is like the traditional claw glove. It's kind of got that armored look to it, and it is worth noting that you do get the dagger version of the Sword of Omens, and it can slide into both of these claw gloves there. So you can slide it in this one, or we've got this furred version here, which is very cool as well. So this is sort of like a Mondo version or a modern version of the claw glove. It's very reminiscent also of the vintage LJN action figures claw glove, albeit it's not as red as that one, but that's definitely what it reminds me of. Now, the way the claw gloves work is you'll actually notice that there is a peg on the inside of the claw glove there. So these will clip on where the hands would go, and the fingers are articulated on the claw gloves, which I feel like it might be the first time we've ever really had that on a Lion-O. Am I right about that? Like, that's pretty cool that we can actually pose the claw gloves around so we can get like kind of like these swiping poses with them. I think that is very, very cool. Of course, you can't have Lion-O without the Sword of Omens. So we do have this classic version of the Sword of Omens here, which has got sort of like this bluish color mixed with the silver, making for a very striking look. It's shiny. Again, the ThunderCats emblem in there is jeweled detailed, so it's got this very, very cool look to it. But that's not the only Sword of Omens we get, because we also get a Mondo-ified version, meaning it's just their version of the Sword of Omens, therefore it's got a bit more detail on it. Like if we compare those hilts side by side, you can see a lot more of an embellishment there on this modern version. You can also see all the details going up the blade there. So this is really cool, because if you want something that's a bit more detailed, you've got the option, but if you want something a bit more traditional, well, that sword is in here as well. And lastly, we've got a version of the Sword of Omens that also has this very cool lightning effect attached to it. It is the Mondo style sword. You can see it kind of matches up with that, but it's got this very cool translucent lightning piece on there. It's a bit heavy. It's very similar to the similar lightning effects we've saw with the Masters of the Universe figures, like with Prince Adam, but with proper balance on the figure, you can definitely get him holding this up, and it's a very cool alternate way to pose him in sort of an action pose. And lastly, as far as the weapons go, he's also got this very cool bladed chain weapon here, which is awesome. I love that it's got this almost like this clawed nunchuck, very similar to what Panthro uses, but we've got a real metal chain with the little blade on the end of it there that is painted a very metallic silver. Just a really cool additional weapon that you can pose with your Lion-O figure. And we even get the Book of Omens. Now, the book doesn't actually open. It does look like this is all meant to stay closed. It's a very cool little accessory though. Again, the ThunderCats emblem on there is jeweled just like it is on the rest of the figure, so it looks very, very cool, and it's just a neat, fun little artifact from the ThunderCats lore to have included with the figure. So Lion-O also comes with 4 pairs of hands. We've got 2 closed fists, 2 relaxed open hands. I wanted to really point out the inside there, how it looks like paws on the inside, like cat paws. He's got the pads on the inside of his hands, and you can see the claws on his fingers. I think that is very cool. He's also got these sort of like scratching style hands there, more for some like dynamic poses. And then of course we've got the C-grip hands, which are intended for holding on to his accessories. So I do want to talk about these claw gloves just a little bit more, because both of them have this little loop on them as well. And you'll notice there's a little hook hanging off the back of Lion-O's belt. So that way you can actually hang the claw glove off of his belt if that's something that you want to do. Of course, you know, you can store that dagger version of the Sword of Omens and the claw glove. You can hang that off of his hip there. It's pretty cool. But I also wanted to show you guys too, like as I was talking about, there's just a peg on the inside, just like with the hands. So if you want to put one of the claw gloves on, you just push it on over the figure and you clip it in just like you would one of the hands, just like that. And now we've got the claw glove on there. You can see those posable fingers that I was talking about, which is very cool. You can store that Sword of Omens right there on his forearm, which is very, very cool. And I definitely feel like this is the way most people are going to display their Lion-O, right? With that claw glove on, because it just looks so very cool. And I like both of them. I think the armored looking one and that furry one both look equally awesome, and both could be contenders for which one we display on the figure. So earlier I mentioned that Lion-O includes interchangeable heads, and crazy enough, he has 5 different heads, which are very, very cool looking. So this right here is like the standard kind of regular look to his face. This is the one that we had on him earlier, but it's also worth noting we've got a second version of that where we've got the sight beyond sight glowing eyes, which is essential for Lion-O. If you want to have him doing the sight beyond sight pose, you got to have those glowing eyes, which is incredibly cool. We then have this more angry Lion-O head. I also like how the hair is swooped the other side on this one, so it's a little bit different there, but this is like the battle ready face right there for Lion-O, with the brow and the gritting teeth or the open mouth like he's screaming. I think this is a very cool fierce look as well. And right here we have King Lion-O. So yes, this is him wearing the crown, again with that jeweled ThunderCats emblem right there on the top. Now worth noting, the accessory that I'm missing from this set is a cape that also goes with this King Lion-O look. You can see it in the photography. It unfortunately was not included with this pre-production sample that Mondo let me borrow, but it does come with a cape as well that matches this particular head. And just like we saw with the Claw Glove and the Sword of Omens, there's also this Mondo-ified version. This is their take on Lion-O, which you can see is got a lot more feline features going on in there, like the mouth and the nose. He's got much more of a fierce lion look. And honestly, I think this is very cool. It's a really neat sort of like what-if look for Lion-O. I do think it's great that they went with more of a classic face for the majority of the heads, but I do think this is very cool, and I can certainly see people maybe swapping these out and displaying them different ways, or maybe even buying both, because it's a really cool update to Lion-O. I think this works really, really well. Now, I love that we've got 5 different portraits here to choose from, but if I can be a little nitpicky here, I will say that I think we're missing out on having a smiling or happy Lion-O face. With Lion-O essentially being a kid trapped in an adult's body, he should have a little bit of fun and whimsy to him as well. I just feel like he could be serious when he needs to be serious, but like a smiling face would have been even cooler here, because I think a lot of us would have wanted to display maybe a happy Lion-O sometimes, but still, 5 different heads, that's pretty cool. And we can't forget the final accessory that's included, because he's got a little buddy. He's got Snarf! Snarf, Snarf. And of course, it is just as detailed as Lion-O, so this is Mondo's take on Snarf, with some incredible details on the face there. I always thought Snarf was a little on the creepy side. Is that just me? I don't know. I also kind of found him a little obnoxious. I'm sorry. He's a cool sidekick character. If you're into the sidekick characters, I do think it's great that he was included. Now, he doesn't have a lot of articulation. You can move his legs forwards and backwards at the thighs, and you can move his arms forwards and backwards at the shoulders. The head can turn left and right, so it's pretty minimal. It looks like it's ball jointed, so it kind of rocks side to side there. But he's solid, man. Like, this is a very heavy piece. You can see lots of detail on there with the fur and everything. I do think it's great that he's included. I mean, he is part of the team, so it's nice that we're getting him right out the gate with Lion-O here. I also thought it would be a lot of fun to go ahead and pose Lion-O alongside the most powerful man in the universe, Mondo's He-Man. I thought it'd be neat to see a team up between these two figures, but I also think it's a great way to show you guys what to expect with this figure, especially if you already have some of the Masters of the Universe 1/6 scale figures in your collection. I think he's really nice, and like I said, extremely photogenic, with a ton of accessories included, which I think is really fantastic. So there's lots of options for posing there. Just a really, really beautiful figure all around. And I'm excited to see where Mondo goes with this. Like, hopefully this means we're going to get more ThunderCats in the scale. I think most people are going to want to see at least the team, right? If you're going to go in on this, we want to see the full main team. And holy cow, if these are to scale with each other, which they should be, when they get to Mumm-Ra, man, he's going to be massive. So there you go, a first look at the 1/6 scale Lion-O action figure from the folks over at Mondo. Once again, I want to give a very special thanks to the team for allowing me to borrow this piece so that we can get a really good look at it, and that way we know what to expect for the final piece. This is available for pre-order right now over at mondoshop.com. This is an open pre-order that goes until August 23rd, with the pre-orders ending at noon Central Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. So if this looks like something that you want to add to your collection, you have until August 23rd at that time to go over to mondoshop.com and place your order. Thank you guys so very much for watching today's video. Please let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, I would appreciate it if you guys would consider hitting that subscribe button if you enjoyed the content you saw here today. Until next time, take care, my friends.